and the knowledge sits quietly on a hardware store shelf, waiting for someone to pick it up. Now you know where to find it. No corporation profits from promoting a cheap, unpatentable compound. So nobody does. That's the real lesson here. Not that the industry is out to get you, but that the market's incentive structures don't always align with your interests. Not every one of them had genuine structural issues that require professional intervention. But for the vast majority dealing with surface moisture, freeze-thaw damage, and efflorescence, a Saturday afternoon and a garden sprayer is enough. Remember those Texas homeowners in February 2021, staring at cracked concrete and facing thousands of dollars in repair bills? Many of them could have treated their garage floors the previous fall for the price of a coffee. The Roman formulation, the modern densifier, and commercial crystalline waterproofing products are all variations on a theme. But the theme itself is ancient, proven, and freely available. Reactive silicon compounds meet calcium in concrete, growing crystalline structures that fill voids and resist water. It's not one identical process. A $3 bottle of sodium silicate performs a related chemical reaction in your garage this weekend. The thread connecting all of these is the same. Roman engineers mixed volcanic ash into harbor concrete 2,000 years ago. MIT researchers in 2023 proved that lime clasts create self-healing material. The thread connects 2,000 years. Let's step back and see the larger pattern here. But it is not a universal solution for every concrete moisture problem. Knowing the difference is what separates a smart DIY project from an expensive mistake. For a garage floor, a workshop slab, or a basement that gets occasional dampness from the surface, sodium silicate is an excellent option. Moisture, it's a genuine game changer at a fraction of the cost of alternatives. This is sufficient for surface hardening, dust reduction, and reducing water absorption from the surface side, but it does not transform the entire depth of a thick concrete slab. The bottom line is that sodium silicate is an excellent, remarkably cost-effective treatment for densifying, hardening, and reducing surface porosity of concrete. Despite some claims you may see online about silicate penetrating inches into concrete, technical sources indicate that the actual densification occurs primarily in the surface layer, millimeters to perhaps a few centimeters deep. For most residential concrete, this is unlikely, but if you're concerned, a slightly more expensive alternative called lithium silicate provides similar densifying benefits while mitigating ASR risk. And fifth, penetration depth is limited. If your concrete was originally mixed with certain types of reactive aggregates, such as chert, opal, or strained quartz, introducing additional alkali through sodium silicate can trigger an expansive gel that swells and actually cracks the concrete from within. If there's not enough free lime left in the concrete, the silicate has nothing to react with, and the treatment may be less effective or ineffective. Fourth, there's a rare but real risk called alkali-silica reaction, or ASR. Third, the chemistry has a shelf life inside your concrete, and sodium silicate reacts with free calcium hydroxide, the free lime in concrete. In very old concrete, say over 30 to 40 years, much of that free lime may have already reacted with carbon dioxide in the air through a process called carbonation. If your basement has groundwater actively pushing up through the slab because of a high water table, sodium silicate alone will not solve that problem. You may need a French drain system, a sump pump, or a proper waterproofing membrane installed by a professional, but these are situations where professional waterproofing services genuinely earn their cost. Second, it is a densifier, not a magic waterproofing membrane. Industry testing and professional sources are clear. Sodium silicate reduces water absorption and hardens the concrete surface, but it does not stop hydrostatic pressure. Inhaling the mist from a pump sprayer can irritate your respiratory system, so you must wear heavy-duty rubber gloves, chemical safety goggles, and a respirator mask during application. This is not something to handle casually. First, safety. Sodium silicate is a highly alkaline industrial chemical with a pH that can exceed 11.5 inches solution. It is caustic, and direct contact causes skin irritation and can cause severe eye burns. The total project, for an average basement, takes about 2 to 3 hours and costs less than a decent lunch. Now here's where earns your trust by telling you the honest limitations of what sodium silicate does not do. Then allow 24 hours of cure time before foot traffic, or 72 hours before driving a vehicle over it. That's it. If puddles of sodium silicate solution dry on top of the concrete, they form a hard, white, glassy residue that is extremely difficult to remove. After 30 to 60 minutes of reaction time, scrub the surface with a stiff brush and rinse away the excess with clean water. This is the step most people miss. Do not let excess silicate dry on the surface. Keep the treated surface visibly wet for at least 30 minutes after application, misting with water if needed in warm or dry conditions. Step 6. The critical rinse. The chemical reaction between sodium silicate and calcium hydroxide requires moisture to proceed. If the liquid dries too fast, the reaction stops prematurely. This is called wet-on-wet application. Step 5. Keep it wet. Apply enough that the surface looks wet and glossy. If the concrete is very porous and absorbs the liquid within 30 seconds, apply a second coat immediately to that section while it's still wet. Use a garden pump sprayer, a thick nap paint roller, or a wide brush. Work in manageable sections of about 50 square feet. This breaks surface tension and helps the silicate solution spread evenly and penetrate more effectively before the chemical reaction begins. Step 4. Apply generously. Step 3. Lightly dampen the surface. Right before application, mist the concrete with clean water so it's slightly damp but not puddling. Sodium silicate densifies concrete from within, but it's not designed to stop pressurized water flowing through structural cracks. If you have active leaks, with water visibly seeping or spraying through cracks, address those with hydraulic cement or polyurethane crack injection before applying the densifier. The cement needs time to complete its primary hydration. Step 2. Fix active water problems first. Rinse completely and let it dry. If the concrete is newly poured, wait at least 28 days before treating it. Those barriers must be removed first. For deep cleaning, a solution of trisodium phosphate and water works well. Sweep away all loose dust and debris. If there's existing paint, oil, grease, or old sealer on the concrete, the silicate cannot penetrate. For an average American basement of about 1,000 square feet, you're looking at roughly $8 to $15 in total material cost. Step 1. Prepare the surface thoroughly. A quart costs roughly $2 to $4. Because it's diluted with water before application, 1 quart covers approximately 200 to 400 square feet, depending on concrete porosity. First, find your product. In the masonry aisle, look for sodium silicate solution, water glass, concrete densifier, or silicate sealer. Let's get practical. Here's exactly how to apply sodium silicate as a concrete densifier, and it is remarkably straightforward. That is how genuinely useful, unpatentable solutions fade from public awareness, not through villainy, but through economic indifference. Here is how to do it. A step-by-step guide. It sits on the shelf between the TSP cleaner and the concrete patch compound, unremarkable and unloved. No one profits enough from selling it to bother telling you what it does. Sodium silicate didn't get buried. It simply never had a corporate champion to promote it. There's no recurring revenue in a treatment that doesn't need to be reapplied. The result isn't suppression, it's neglect. No company is going to spend millions on advertising campaigns for a product it can't patent, can't differentiate, and can't sell at a premium. No sales team is going to be built around a product that a homeowner can apply in an afternoon with a garden sprayer. What's different is the packaging, the marketing, the brand name, the contractor markup, and the warranty paperwork. This isn't a conspiracy, it's basic market economics. Here's the revealing part. If you look at the safety data sheets and technical specifications for many commercial crystalline waterproofing products sold under premium brand names at $40 to $90 per kilogram, their primary active ingredient is often listed as reactive silica or sodium silicate. The fundamental chemistry performing the pore-filling reaction is the same. The products they use, proprietary crystalline waterproofing compounds, synthetic polymer sealers, multi-layer membrane systems, are designed to be applied by trained professionals using specialized equipment. The global construction waterproofing market generates tens of billions of dollars annually. Professional basement sealing services routinely quote homeowners between $2,000 and $12,000. And because a $3 quart can treat 200 to 400 square feet of concrete, the profit margins are essentially non-existent. Now compare that to what the modern waterproofing industry actually sells. No corporation can own it. No company can build a proprietary brand around it with meaningful differentiation. Sodium silicate cannot be patented. It's a basic, inorganic compound that has been in the public domain for over a century. That framing makes for dramatic content, but it's not accurate. The real explanation is less cinematic and far more instructive because it reveals how markets actually work. Here's where most YouTube videos about sodium silicate fall into a trap. They tell you the construction industry buried this secret, that corporations pray you never find it, and that there's some kind of conspiracy to keep you ignorant and spending money. So why isn't this the default recommendation from every contractor and hardware store employee in the country? It is the economics of invisibility. The pores become denser, water absorption drops measurably, and because this new crystal structure forms inside the concrete rather than on top of it, it cannot peel, blister, or delaminate like a topical coating. One application, a few dollars in materials, and the concrete is permanently denser than it was before. A 2016 study, published by researchers at China State Construction Engineering, found that concrete treated with a sodium silicate-based sealer showed approximately 12% increase in surface hardness compared to untreated specimens. It is the exact same crystalline gel that gives concrete its structural strength in the first place, and the reaction essentially grows new binding material inside the existing pore network, filling gaps in capillary channels from within. It dissolves easily, contributes to efflorescence, and provides little strength. But when sodium silicate meets this calcium hydroxide, the two react to form calcium silicate hydrate, commonly written as CSH, which is not some exotic compound. Inside those pores, it encounters calcium hydroxide, a soluble byproduct that Portland cement naturally produces during hydration. This free lime is actually a structural weakness. When you brush or spray a diluted sodium silicate solution onto a concrete surface, the liquid doesn't sit on top like paint. Because its molecules are extremely small, it soaks into the capillary pore network of the concrete, penetrating into the surface layer where the critical densification occurs. It's been manufactured commercially since the 19th century, and its use in construction dates back over 100 years. But what makes it remarkable is what happens when you apply it to bare concrete. Sodium silicate is a simple, inorganic compound. It is sodium oxide bonded with silicon dioxide dissolved in water. It is sometimes called waterglass or concrete densifier. A quart typically costs between $2 and $4. It's the $3 bottle. Walk into the masonry aisle of most hardware stores, and you'll find a product labeled sodium silicate solution. But the underlying chemistry, the role of reactive silicon compounds, and calcium in filling concrete pores, belongs to the same family of reactions. And that family leads us directly to a much simpler, more accessible product. It is not a surface treatment. You cannot retroactively turn modern Portland cement concrete into Roman concrete by painting something on top of it. Roman pozzolanic concrete was a specific formulation. Volcanic ash is mixed into the concrete during production. Control samples made without lime clasts never healed. Now, this is a critical distinction that most popular accounts get wrong. The MIT team verified this by creating modern replicas of Roman concrete, cracking them and running water through. The crack sealed shut within weeks. The calcium dissolves, flows into the crack, and recrystallizes as calcium carbonate, essentially growing new mineral material that fills the fracture. The concrete heals itself. Here is the remarkable part. When cracks form in this Roman concrete, water seeps in and hits these lime clasts. Rather than using pre-slaked lime paste, the Romans mixed raw quicklime directly into the dry ingredients before adding water, a technique researchers call hot mixing. This created extreme temperatures during the chemical reaction, producing tiny, calcium-rich deposits called lime clasts, scattered throughout the hardened concrete. In January 2023, a research team led by MIT professor Admir Masick published a landmark study in the journal Science Advances that finally explained why Roman concrete has survived 2 millennia, while modern concrete often crumbles within decades. The key wasn't just the volcanic ash. It was how the Romans processed their lime. Their solution was a material innovation that modern science is still studying today. The Romans discovered that mixing volcanic ash from the area around Pozzuoli, near the Bay of Naples, with quicklime and seawater, produced a concrete fundamentally different from anything else in the ancient world. Around the 1st century AD, Roman engineers faced a problem that would define their empire's infrastructure. How do you build harbors, aqueducts, and cisterns out of concrete that must survive constant contact with water, including the corrosive salt water of the Mediterranean? Ancient builders figured this out long before modern chemistry had a name for it. This represents 20 centuries of silicon chemistry. They create recurring revenue. But what if, instead of sealing the surface, you could change the nature of the concrete itself? This is a design flaw baked into the business model. Topical coatings wear out. Over time, the epoxy blisters, delaminates, and peels. The homeowner pays again, and then again a few years later. These products essentially glue a layer of plastic film to the top of the concrete. They work for a while, but because concrete constantly releases moisture vapor from below, the trapped vapor builds pressure underneath the coating. This includes sidewalks across every cold climate on the planet. The conventional modern solution is topical sealers, acrylic coatings, and epoxy. It's the exact mechanism that destroyed thousands of Texas garage floors in February 2021, and it's the same force that deteriorates bridge decks and parking structures. The next freeze pushes harder. This is the freeze-thaw cycle. Ice crystals push outward against the pore walls from the inside, creating microfractures. When it thaws, more water fills those new, slightly larger cracks. Now here's where the real damage happens. When that trapped moisture freezes, it expands by roughly 9%. If you've ever noticed that white residue on your basement walls or garage floor, that's called efflorescence. It's a visible warning sign that water is actively moving through your concrete. As that water moves, it dissolves calcium and sodium salts, naturally present in the concrete, and carries them to the surface. When the water evaporates, it leaves behind a white chalky powder. These tunnels are the Achilles heel of every concrete structure on Earth. Groundwater, rain, and ambient moisture travel upward through these capillaries by a force called capillary suction. But as that excess water evaporates over weeks and months, it leaves behind millions of tiny capillary pores and microscopic channels. These channels run through the material like tunnels through a mountain. Concrete is made by mixing Portland cement with water, sand, and aggregate. The water triggers a chemical reaction called hydration, which hardens the mixture. But at the microscopic level, concrete is closer to a rigid sponge. Understanding why is the key to everything that follows. This is the sponge beneath your feet. When you look at a concrete floor, it appears solid as stone. The modern construction industry never had a financial reason to tell you about it. Let's start with the enemy. It goes from the volcanic harbors of ancient Rome to a bottle you can pick up this weekend. We're going to explain exactly what it does and what it doesn't do. Welcome to Historia Prime. Today we're tracing one of the oldest material science principles in human engineering. The underlying problem is that water trapped inside concrete pores has been understood for over 2,000 years. A chemical treatment that addresses it has been sitting on hardware store shelves, largely ignored, for about $3 a quart. The repair estimates were $2,000, $5,000, $12,000 for a full basement remediation. But here's what almost none of those contractors mentioned. Concrete that looked solid 6 months earlier was now spalling, pitting, and flaking in sheets. The repair estimates started rolling in. Concrete garage floors, basement slabs, and foundation walls were cracking apart from the inside out. When the thaw finally came weeks later, homeowners across the state discovered the damage. In February 2021, a polar vortex collapsed across Texas, dropping temperatures to minus 18 degrees Celsius in places that hadn't seen snow in a decade. Pipes burst, power grids failed, and across millions of homes, something quieter and more permanent was happening beneath everyone's feet.